Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you has the potential to reshape the financial future of every American who depends on Social Security. Something inside the system quietly shifted, and almost nobody saw it coming. While most people were asleep, a silent move inside Washington was put into motion, and now analysts are calling it the most significant Social Security development in decades. Before I go any deeper, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, because if you rely on Social Security, SSI, SSDI, or plan to retire soon, these next updates could directly affect your monthly income. Now let's dig in. Here's the part that's catching everyone by surprise. The catalyst appears to be tied directly to a signature from President Trump. Over the last week, there were whispers, an internal memo quietly circulating among Senate staffers, a late-night comment from a senior White House advisor, and then confirmation that Trump personally ordered a review of 3 Social Security mechanisms that have remained untouched for over 40 years. These mechanisms decide how your benefit is calculated, how fast it grows, and how much you actually receive each month. And if even one of these pillars is rewritten, the impact won't be minor. It will be historic. But here's the strange thing. None of this made mainstream news. No urgent announcements, no headlines, no breaking banners. It was tucked behind larger stories, almost as if it wasn't meant to be noticed yet. That's why so many experts are calling this a flip, because the usual slow public process wasn't followed. Instead, we're seeing internal pressure, private discussions, and policy drafts being accelerated faster than anyone anticipated. So what did Trump push forward, and why now? According to insiders, the review focuses on 3 major areas: how Social Security prioritizes payments, how COLA adjustments are calculated, and how certain income groups might be treated under a revised benefit structure. If this new model moves into active development, it could become the biggest structural change since the 1983 Social Security Reform Act. Back then, it took months of public debate and transparency. This time, it's the opposite: quiet acceleration, almost no debate, and a growing expectation that something major is preparing to surface. Internal SSA analysts have already warned that the changes being examined would affect current retirees, future retirees, SSDI recipients, SSI recipients, widows, survivors, and disabled workers. In simple terms, if you receive any type of Social Security payment, you are part of this story. And if you're planning to retire in the near future, you're part of it too. And before you think this is just another rumor, let me be crystal clear. This isn't coming from random sources. The memo was referenced by Senior Policy Advisor Mark Larison, someone who rarely speaks publicly. He said the review request moved faster than any revision he's seen in nearly 2 decades. His exact phrase was, "Something just flipped inside the SSA." That single line is what turned this from a quiet internal memo into a major behind-the-scenes alert. So now the real questions begin. What was changed? Who benefits? Who could lose? And why is this happening right now, at a time when inflation, debt levels, and retiree pressure are all at their highest in years? To understand that, you have to look at what these reviews are targeting. Once analysts began breaking down the draft, the pattern became obvious. This wasn't routine system maintenance. It was a deep structural review aimed at 3 areas of Social Security that have been untouchable for decades. The first area is COLA, how your cost of living adjustment is calculated each year. For years, seniors have complained that the current formula doesn't reflect real inflation, especially for housing, food, and medical costs. According to SSA economist Dr. Emily Carter, Trump's team is examining a new COLA formula that could dramatically change how increases are determined. She described it as a recalibration meant to reflect lived economic conditions rather than outdated models. That single phrase has sparked more debate in Washington than any Social Security comment in months. The second area under review is payment prioritization. This is something most people have never heard of unless they work inside SSA. Payment prioritization decides who gets paid first if the system faces delays, stress, or financial pressure. Historically, it's been based on rigid rules developed decades ago. But the memo suggests a new model built around vulnerability, meaning lower-income retirees, disabled workers, and SSI recipients could be moved into a higher priority category during economic instability. If adopted, it would be the first shift of its kind. The third point, and the one raising the most eyebrows, is the dividend redistribution model. This appears to be an early framework for channeling excess tariff revenue, federal penalties, and certain surpluses into a supplemental Social Security pool. The wording is vague, but clear enough to imply that Trump's signature triggered a deeper financial review of how outside revenue sources could be used to support seniors. For many experts, that's the strongest signal yet that something big is being built behind closed doors. But here's the detail almost everyone missed. Buried on page 7 is a note that the proposed adjustments would shift benefit distribution patterns in unprecedented ways. That wording is exactly why economists believe this could mark the beginning of a new Social Security era, one where benefits aren't distributed the way they have been for generations. Then came a Senate Finance Committee note late Friday confirming that Trump's request was classified as high priority. That designation is rare. It's only used when something is time-sensitive or politically urgent. The fact it was assigned quietly, with no public announcement, is why analysts are calling this the Social Security flip. So why now? Insiders say Trump has expressed concern that the system isn't keeping up with inflation, isn't protecting the most vulnerable, and isn't rewarding lifetime workers fairly. Whether you agree with him or not, his administration has signaled interest in modernizing Social Security for some time. But with inflation high, federal debt worsening, and retiree pressure escalating, the timing of this review has created massive speculation. Is this preparation for major reforms? A long-term restructuring? A new fiscal model? What's clear is this: the changes being reviewed aren't cosmetic. They cut directly into the formulas, payment priorities, and financial backbone of the program. Even a partial rollout would impact millions of people. And this is where the story takes a shocking turn. When analysts examined which groups were likely to be affected first, the results were not at all what anyone predicted. The first group flagged in the analysis was fixed-income seniors making under $32,000 a year. This group has been hardest hit by rising costs, and under the revised COLA model, they could see 3% to 6% higher yearly adjustments compared to the general population. Next on the list were SSI and SSDI recipients. The prioritization model suggests they could move into a protected tier during economic turbulence, meaning they would be paid earlier or more reliably than other groups. For millions living with disabilities, this would be a major shift. But the twist: high-earning beneficiaries, who many expected to be first in line, were listed lowest. Under the dividend redistribution model, higher-income retirees may see smaller increases, described in the memo as recalibrated expectations. That phrase typically indicates slower benefit growth rather than outright cuts. Early retirees also appear with mixed outcomes. Some scenarios suggest a temporary advantage in early years, but that benefit tapers off as the formula adjusts to real inflation patterns. The memo also includes projected scenarios: low-income seniors receiving 3% to 6% higher increases, SSI recipients possibly receiving early first-quarter adjustments during high inflation, supplemental payments for selected groups if tariff revenues exceed expectations. For millions of seniors, even a few extra dollars can determine whether they buy groceries or medication. This is why analysts believe the changes represent a redistribution of protection, ensuring the most vulnerable groups receive stability during economic stress. But the biggest shock is buried on page 14 under structural consequences. This section describes how the new revenue model could create entirely new benefit tiers based on vulnerability, inflation exposure, and lifetime earnings. This would fundamentally change how benefits are calculated. The memo suggests these changes could roll out in phases, with some groups seeing early indicators next year. That's why experts say staying informed isn't optional, it's essential. According to the internal schedule tied to Trump's review order, SSA must submit a preliminary readiness report within 60 days. Analysts are already modeling scenarios, testing formulas, and drafting potential implementation outlines. Once the readiness report is filed, early markers could begin appearing in SSA online portals. Tabs, notices, eligibility previews, and other hints about which model is moving forward. This is why monitoring your SSA portal matters. If you see new notices, don't ignore them. They may reveal whether you're in the group that benefits early. The outline includes 3 phases. Phase 1, recalculating COLA under the alternative model. Phase 2, adjusting payment priorities for vulnerable groups. Phase 3, rolling out the dividend redistribution model if external revenue meets projections. Not every phase is guaranteed. Not every change will happen at the same pace, but the fact these phases exist at all signals that the program is being prepared for its biggest transformation in decades. But remember, nothing changes overnight. Even if authorization moves quickly, major shifts take time. You won't wake up tomorrow to new benefit amounts. You won't be pushed into a new structure without warning. What you should do now is stay aware. Know your benefit amount, check your earnings record, and understand your filing status. The people who know their own numbers will be the first to take advantage of new opportunities, and the first to avoid setbacks. Economists say the biggest winners under the new model would likely be low-income seniors, SSI and SSDI recipients, and retirees whose checks haven't kept up with inflation. If the external revenue model becomes reality, certain groups could even receive supplemental payments during strong economic cycles. But these are projections, not final decisions. The real impact depends on the official language, the final approval, and how aggressively implementation moves forward. What's certain is this: Social Security is entering a rare moment of change, a moment where outdated formulas may finally give way to something new, a moment shaped by presidential influence, economic pressure, and rising demand for modernization. And if handled correctly, this could redefine retirement stability for an entire generation. So, here's my final message. Stay alert, stay informed, and stay connected. The updates coming in the next few weeks and months will determine the future of your benefits, your stability, and your long-term financial security. As soon as anything changes, a memo, a vote, a signature, or a rollout, you will hear it here first. Make sure you're subscribed, turn on notifications, and above all, remember this: no matter how complex the system becomes, you deserve clarity, protection, and a future you can rely on. Stay strong, stay aware, and I'll keep you updated every step of the way.